Hi, my name is Ashley Rich, and you are all signed in for this TFI 1.9 Reducing Incidents Using Schoolwide Practices in Classrooms. Um, to get started, and I'm going to go pretty fast, but I put all of the images and resources in a resource folder that you can go back and peruse. So that if I go too fast and you're like, Ashley, way too fast, you can go back and look, as well as the slides. So I am coming to you from First Branch Middle School and Preschool, which is a small and rural school in Vermont. You'll see there's a little heart on the map. And so we are part of the White River Valley Supervisory Union. And within that is the First Branch District and the First Branch Unified District. And then there is a consolidated kindergarten through fourth grade school. And then we have a pre-K within First Branch Middle School and Preschool, and then grades 5th through 8th. And we have around 102 students. It's fluctuating. We got a couple new ones coming in. And so some of us about us is that we have a co-principal model. So Dan Rivers is the co-principal here at First Branch Middle School and Preschool. Janet Cash is the co-principal at the elementary school. There's me, who I'm the student support coordinator. I added our administrative assistant because I tend to wrangle her into some of my schemes. And then you'll see that we have Hendrix, and he is our positive support. He's a therapy dog. He comes a couple days a week with me to work. And then at the bottom, you'll see the we are kind, we are well, and we are strong. And those are our school expectations. I wasn't going to read this to you, but basically, this is the grid and the matrix that we all are doing for our TFI. So what's the value? Basically, what it comes down to is teachers want to teach. Theoretically, students want to learn. Most of them do. But I also think that students and staff want to feel connected. And so being able to build these systems in is going to help with it. So I came in last year in the student support coordinator role with some problems that we were hoping to help solve by me coming into the role. I come into this role as an educator for elementary, for K through 6, as well as a special educator certification for K through 21. And I've got trauma-informed certifications and working with children who are anxious certifications from Lynn Lyons, who, if you have not heard of her before, she's fantastic. Check her out. And one of the first things I noticed is that there was not a clear protocol of what happens if things go awry from exhibited behaviors at school. I love a good flowchart, so I immediately made a flowchart that we started implementing and using. So that is what is on your screen right now. It's a work in progress. It's had some shifts and changes since last year, and next year we'll have some more after some professional development that I've run with staff. So how we are making teaching and learning happen, again, we're using this we are kind, we are strong, and we are well, and we have the matrix because of student voice and choice. So last year I asked all advisories and preschool to tell us to tell me what being strong, being well, and being kind looked like, sounded like, and felt like. Those were their 3 tasks. And from that, I got a whole list from our 7 cohorts. And I was able to plug them into this matrix. So this was rolled out this year, which has been really helpful. Using their words, I was able to plug it in. It keeps it consistent through every location that we have within the school that can go back to. When kids have, go back, Ashley. When kids are going back to class, perhaps with a reflection sheet, they have to still refer to that matrix. So one of the other things that we brought in is what's called base camp. We're in Vermont. We're the Green Mountain State. It's pretty. It's also really cold. And so every every classroom, every learning space within our building has this First Branch base camp. And on there it has our guideposts through Character Strong. It also has some self-monitoring, executive functioning skills built in, as well as some closing routines. Some others have because they were given options of what their base camp had, it needed to have learning targets. That's like the one must have. It had a needs-based reset. So instead of having breaks, we're not calling them breaks, we call them reset and resume, making it needs-based. So what do they need? And referring back to that on base camp is in some. We also positive reinforcement. Like, I get that there's still this whole like buy-in thing with PBIS and people think you need to get a token and no, that's not how we roll. That has been a mindset shift that I've been able to make happen. So every adult in the building gets an example of our Let's Rock protocol. We have rocks in a jar. They are river rocks, they are glass rocks. And what it has come down to is that every classroom has one jar within their class. If that jar gets filled, they have a class-wide celebration. It can be things like, you don't have homework today, or they get 5 to 10 minutes of outside time, and then they go into a community jar, and the community jar has school-wide celebrations. So we've done things like Mountain Day, multiple spirit weeks. We had a staff versus student basketball game. There were trophies. We go to Dartmouth College for Dartmouth Education Day, where we all get to watch a basketball game. I have made so many trays of Rice Krispie treats. We've done apple cider socials, and we had a pie the staff contest. Luckily, we did not necessarily fill the jar to get to that one. We were close by the end of last year, but we weren't there yet. I have shifted it to, instead of being a token, it's a visual representation of the positive reinforcement that they're already giving. We also have students that are able to recognize other students to be able to give rocks. It's not just adults that are saying, give a rock. We even have bus tickets. Each bus ticket that you get is a rock in the jar. We also have our Character Strong monthly guidepost, like I mentioned, with a town hall recognition. Our school counselor universally uses the Character Strong curriculum. We use that guidepost every month. We recognize students that have exhibited that guidepost. They're nominated by usually staff members. Any staff member, whether you're a teacher or not, can recognize students. And then there's usually, they get an apple, like a local apple or a different fruit, just to kind of up the ante a little bit. So that's how we have started making teaching and learning happen. The impact that it's had, and it's really kind of tricky because the screen's really small, but we had a significant decrease in major behavior referrals. There's been increased student engagement, and our staff turnover has reduced, because what we're doing is we're investing in our teachers and investing in our systems because we want them to stay. And then we've also had a lot of our hazing, harassment, and bullying investigations and being founded. Those have significantly decreased. So our major referrals, this is a breakdown of the entire year last year. And up here, you'll see what numbers we're at: 22 to 23, 23 to 24. And then last year, which was my first year, here was major referrals for last year. And they, in some cases, went down a total of 71%. So pretty significant. And then here's another fun visual representation. So you'll see last year was the yellows. So by creating these systems and these different resources, it's paid off. This was winter for this year. So we have to do board reports for social emotional learning. We do it mid-year and then also at the end of the year. And then we also have our HHB comparisons. So they asked us to be honest about what our TFI self-assessment and future action steps were. One of them was that we scored a 3 last year, but this year using some feedback, we scored a 4. And by doing that, we have some next steps with professional development because we have built in more opportunities for restorative practices to close the circle. That's a big hope, giving teachers that opportunity to do that. That's not taking out of their teaching time, as well as building in more student voice in regards to consequences, because sometimes it feels like the consequences aren't enough. One of the things I want to go back to was our professional development, which was really big. One of the things that I implemented this fall was a function-based thinking map for exhibited behaviors that broke it down into sensory needs, social emotional needs, and potential academic needs, as well as what to do and how to do it. So one of the things that we also did was work with staff to tell us about using the data that we have and the current systems that we have and walk through everything like a case study. And from there, we got a lot of feedback and broke it down into reactive and proactive, as well as some things about what we're going to need to improve for this next round. So, because we were told to go really fast so that there's lots of time for question and answers, my suggestions for schools who are getting started: love myself a flowchart. Just saying. Practice it, use it, get feedback from staff, and adjust it as needed. I've been modeling one of my goals. I call it a Mary Poppins list, and Mary Poppins things is modeling this positive reinforcement for staff. I do it pretty subtly. So it's things like using ChatGPT last year for teacher appreciation. We made little Funko Pops. You probably saw them all over social media. We turned every staff person into a Funko Pop and put it on their door. I typically write pretty in-depth thank you cards to staff members, give them a pretty bougie chocolate bar as well. These are things that I fund, so I get it. But being able to model positive reinforcement in a subtle way has actually had staff starting to do the same thing, which has been nice. Taking something off teachers' plates. I provide them materials. If I'm running some professional development, I usually ask for longer time and then give them that leftover time to either touch base with me, reflect, plan, and then try to be as proactive rather than reactive. Getting better, being flexible, and getting that student voice, modeling it consistently. I sometimes forget to give rocks as that visual reinforcement of positive reinforcement. Getting feedback from all stakeholders. Really, this year I've brought in caregivers a whole lot more to get their perception of things. Again, investing in your students and staff, and that learning and consistently implementing more proactive rather than reactive supports has paid off. So, I did it in 13 minutes, questions and answers. And I also put my email down so that if there are other things that you might have questions about, you can just shoot me an email and I'll see if I can answer any.